Teach Like a Pirate is a fantastic book written by Dave Burgess. The last 3 sections of Part 1 are filled with ways to help teachers design more creative lessons, figure out how to transform their classroom, and display their enthusiasm so that it spreads beyond their classroom. In the first section of Part 4, the way to figure out how to ask the right questions and analyze these results are broken down into 4 parts: the real law of attraction, design a system to capture ideas, make it easy, and failure versus feedback. Before we talk about these, we need to understand why we need them. Burgess explains how teachers constantly ask the question, how can I become more creative when I'm designing my lessons? He goes on to explain that teachers can accomplish becoming more creative by doing 3 things. Number 1 is putting in the hard work. This means that teachers need to make sure that they're asking the right questions. Having more effective questions means that the teacher will have more creative lessons because the type and quality of the questions asked determine the quality of the answers received. However, these answers do not just appear out of thin air. This leads us to number 2, directed attention. This is where the teacher actively and consistently attempts to create. Inspiration for creativity surrounds us, and until we put the effort in to look for it, we won't see it, which leads us to number 3, relentless engagement. This is where the teacher actively seeks the answers, and this ultimately leads to their aha moment of creative inspiration. When you ask the right questions, your brain won't be satisfied until your goals are accomplished. To accomplish this goal and put the real law of attraction to work, teachers need to do 3 things: create a vision, define the goals, and start working towards them. Teachers need to be prepared at all times to have aha moments of creative inspiration. By being prepared, Burgess means that teachers should create a system for immediately capturing and organizing ideas so they are not lost forever, because these moments of creative inspiration can come when you least expect them to. Make it easy is just as simple as it sounds. The easier you make an idea work, the more likely you are to use it. Burgess discusses the importance of taking risks in the classroom. He explains that if a teacher hasn't failed in the classroom, then they aren't taking a big enough risk. After teachers discover the vision that they have for their class, then they need to implement one of those great ideas that they came up with and analyze the results. Then, teachers need to learn from those results and see them as feedback to improve and make adjustments to their great idea for future use. But a really important part of this whole process is to not take the feedback personally. As teachers become more experienced and have a lot of practice doing this, they can gauge the level of engagement of their students and make these adjustments on the fly. As teachers create the vision they have for their classroom, a lot of expectations are placed on the lesson, how engaging the activities are, and how much the students will learn from them at the end of the day. Burgess explains that teachers can accomplish transforming their classroom from an ordinary class to one that stands out by using the world's greatest GPS, which is your brain, asking 2 questions for raising the bar, and positioning and reframing your thinking. For teachers to do this successfully, first they need to know what a remarkable teacher is. Burgess describes a remarkable teacher as one that is so exceptional and different that people talk about them in a good way. One way that teachers become effective is by using their brain to create their ideal classroom. In order to reach their destination of creating their ideal classroom, first they need to envision it. Next, teachers must have a current reality of their class. When teachers do this, then they're able to see the areas that their class may fall short. Once they determine where improvements need to be made, then they can start working on creating their ideal classroom. In the book, Burgess poses 2 questions for teachers to ask themselves concerning their teaching. The first question is, if your students didn't have to be there, would you be teaching in an empty room? The point that Burgess tries to make with this question is that teachers need to create an undeniably enjoyable classroom environment for their students that draws them in from day 1. The second question that Burgess poses is, do you have any lessons that you could sell tickets for? The point that Burgess tries to make with this question is that teachers need to transform their class into something that students cannot wait to be a part of. Along with raising the bar, teachers also need to implement positioning and reframing in their classroom. One of the problems within classrooms is that students don't see why they need to learn what they're learning. This means that teachers need to position the content as if it's the best thing ever by giving students reasons why it relates to them. They should also reframe the way that students think about a subject by making the content relevant to their lives. As teachers change the perceptions that students have of the material, the students may come to realize that a subject like history or math can be interesting and possibly even fun. The last section of Part 1 talks about enthusiasm, which is something that all teachers have and should always use. Burgess says that this skill is what separates a good teacher from a great one. He also explains how teachers can tap into their enthusiasm by making the commitment to being on, using 2 ways to light your fire, and spreading the virus. Being on in the classroom is something that may be easier said than done, but is vital to transforming the classroom. Burgess says that if you walk into his room during first period and then come back for sixth period at the end of the day, you'll see the same intensity in his presentation both times. This requires a major commitment from teachers, but it has a huge payoff for the students. Enthusiasm and passion differ in the fact that enthusiasm can be faked. But the amazing thing about enthusiasm is that even though you may be faking it at the beginning of class, you may find yourself actually being enthusiastic by the end of class. This is because of 4 factors: posture, breathing, tonality, movement. The second way to light your fire is to change your focus and manage your thoughts. When teachers change their focus, they bring their attention to what empowers them, and when they manage their thoughts, they focus on the positive instead of the negative. So, on the days when teachers may just not be feeling it, they can either change their physiology or their focus to feel more enthusiastic. Burgess says that our mission is to teach in such a way that who we are as human beings has a more powerful and lasting effect on students than what we say. When we model enthusiasm, it rubs off on everybody around us. It is absolutely contagious. No matter what subject or grade we teach, we need to make sure that we do everything with enthusiasm. And when we do this, we can watch it spread. I believe that by designing more creative lessons, using techniques to transform the classroom, and being enthusiastic, teachers can create a classroom that students are instantly drawn to and are excited to learn. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something new.